A huge sandstone boulder was found near the mouth of the Singapore River. It measured 3 meters by 3 meters with a flat surface on which there was about 50 lines of inscription engraved into it. What was the message and who was the author? Let me bring you back to the 13th century. A young man by the name of Badang worked in Saluang, now known as Aceh, in the north of Sumatra. Badang worked for a very rich landowner. His job was to cut down the trees and clear the land. Badang was not a very strong man, so he didn't earn much from his work. His daily meals consisted of rice and some herbs or wild vegetables he gathered from the forest. Badang was tired of this diet. One day, he decided to make a fish snare. It was made with split bamboos and twine and looked like an elongated bird cage with a special opening on one end. It allowed fish to enter, yet not escape. When it was ready, Badang took the snare with some rope and brought it along to go to work. On the way, he saw the river, tied one end to the snare, lowered it into the river, and tied the other end of the rope to a tree. That day, Badang was so excited thinking of the fish he was going to have for dinner. After work, he rushed to the river, pulled out his snare, and what a surprise he had. All he found in the snare were some fish bones and scales. How did this happen? He brought the snare home and tried again the next day. Badang was determined to catch the thief. So one day, after lowering the snare into the river, he hid behind some bushes. He waited for a long time and fell asleep. Suddenly, he was awakened by loud splashes. He got up, and what he saw shocked him. He saw a jinn, a supernatural being with blazing red eyes, long matted hair, and a long beard that reached his navel. Badang's anger gave him strength and courage. He rushed and caught the jinn by its beard, dragged it upland. Badang noticed that the further away he got from the river, the weaker the jinn became, until finally the jinn pleaded for Badang to release it back to the river on the promise that he will fulfill Badang's wish. Badang thought hard and finally decided to wish for strength. The jinn agreed on one condition. Badang had to swallow the jinn's vomit. Badang took a piece of banana leaf and fashioned it into a bowl, and the jinn promptly vomited into it. What Badang saw was more than he bargained for. It was slimy, greenish, and the smell of rotten fish was so overpowering that Badang almost vomited himself. But he was determined to change his life for the better. And so he closed his eyes, held his breath, and swallowed the vomit. Unknown to Badang, there were 2 galigas or magical stones in the vomit. And immediately, Badang could feel the heat coursing through his veins. Padang wanted to try out his newfound strength. He went to a banana tree and pulled it out, and it came out as easily as a toothpick in jelly. Padang was very happy, so he carried the jinn back to the river. From then on, Padang could do his work well, and he was always ready to help anyone in need. News of Padang's strength reached the ears of Raja Sri Rana Vikrama, the third king of Singapore. He invited Padang to join his court and gave him the title of Radin, which was normally given to someone of noble birth. Padang impressed the Raja further when he single-handedly launched the Raja's ship when 3,000 men collectively had failed to do so. The Raja then gave Padang another title, Hulu Balang, meaning champion. News of Padang's strength reached far and wide. One day, the king of Kalinga, now known as Odisha in India, heard of Padang. He wanted to pit the strength of his strong men against Padang. At stake was 7 ships filled with treasures. So the competition took place. They took part in many events, and it appeared that the strong men of Kalinga and Padang were equally matched. So they came to the final event. Everyone proceeded to Bukit Larangan, or Forbidden Hill, which was the royal residence. The strong man of Kalinga had the first go. With great difficulty, he lifted the boulder up to his knees and could not go further. Then it was Padang's turn. Amidst loud cheers and the beats of drums, Padang lifted the boulder easily, way above his head, and flung it so far that it landed near the mouth of the Singapore River. Sir Stamford Raffles arrived in Singapore in January 1890. He had plans to turn Singapore into a city port. However, he found that the boulder was blocking the river traffic, and so he ordered for the boulder to be blasted, and that took place in 1843. Lieutenant Colonel James Lowe, who was against the idea, arrived too late. He collected 3 fragments of the boulder with the most engraving and sent them to the Kolkata Museum in India to be deciphered. The experts could not agree. Some said that the engravings were a form of Kawit, an old Javanese script. Yet others said it is an old form of Sanskrit. Eventually, one of the fragments was returned to Singapore. It is called the Singapore Stone, and in 2006, it was gazetted as a national treasure of Singapore. Today, the Singapore Stone takes pride of place in the National Museum of Singapore. What was the message in the engravings, and who was the author, remain a mystery till today. Presenting the Singapore Stone.